Hi, I'm Keith Cooper from Northlight Images, and this is the Canon PRO-200 printer, and in this short video I'm just going to show the basics of making a glossy borderless print. Why a glossy print? Well, this is a dye-based printer rather than a pigment inks, and dye-based inks do look particularly good on glossy photos. In fact, if you just want to print glossy snapshots, this is probably far better than a more expensive printer, but I'll cover that a lot more in a review I'm working on for the printer, which I'll have available in due course. But anyway, let's make a print. The paper I'm using in this example is a Canon photo paper, Canon Pro Platinum. There are lots of glossy photo papers, but this one I happen to have an ICC profile for that I've made. Canon provide profiles as well, but I prefer to make my own. They just give a bit of an edge in the pictures. But once again, that's something I'll look at in the review. So I have an A3 sheet, or 13 inch by 19 inch, of a very glossy paper. I'm just going to load it in the printer. There's slide bars at the back here that you just move apart. And drop the paper in. Now these rails need sliding together to hold the paper in place, because it goes through the center of the printer. But you want to be careful you don't pinch it too much, because if you pinch it here it can make problems with feeding paper. I noticed that in opening this and putting this in, a message has come up on the screen here. There's an animation here that shows you how to load paper if you're not familiar with it. Lots of helpful little bits like this in the printer. But anyway, let's just set it for printing. There we go, put that bar back. And it tells me that it's A4 Pro Platinum. Well, it isn't A4, that happens to be the last print I did on the printer. So I will just change that size to A3+. It's now A3+. It mentions detect paper mismatch settings. I leave that enabled because in the process of testing I'm swapping papers backwards and forwards, and it's easy to forget exactly which paper you've got in or what settings you're using somewhere. So it's just as an extra reminder. It can be a bit annoying when it keeps popping up on the screen, but then you realise that you're about to waste an A3 sheet of paper or something like that, then it's useful. But anyway, there we are, it's ready to print. Now the software I'm going to use is the Canon print software that's available. You could print this perfectly well from Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever application you like. However, I'm going to use the Canon software because it's easy, it's standard, it's available. I'm printing it on a Mac, but it works perfectly well on Windows as well, and it does a good job. I'm not saying you should use it, but don't dismiss it out of hand. Right, I have opened the image. It's actually opened in Photoshop, and I've passed it on to Professional Print Layout. Now it's opened in this, and let's have a look at a few of the settings. I've got the correct printer selected. Let's look at the print settings. We've got the correct paper selected. And I've selected A3 Plus and borderless printing. Borderless, well, partly because I can. I don't do borderless very often. I've also selected high quality printing. Doesn't make much of a difference in this printer with the print times, but in profiling I've found that on this particular paper you get a slightly larger colour gamut, so it's a slightly larger range of colours. It's not much, but can just make a difference on a very bright picture like this. I'm using the top feed, and that's colour management. I've selected use ICC profile. Now you could do this automatically and it would pick the appropriate Canon profile for this, but in this instance I've picked my own profile, one I've created on this printer, and I'm using the relative colorimetric rendering intent because the image looks a little bit better with that. Now there's no hard and fast choice between the rendering intents, it's whatever looks best. And one way of checking which looks best is to click the soft proofing button, and it now shows an estimate and given this is a laptop screen, it is only an estimate of what the print will look like, and I can use that to get a feel for whether the print is going to go okay. I think it will, so we'll just press the print button. The printer's now woken up, and it should be printing any moment now. With the borderless print, it's often quite slow at the start and the end because the printer is working at its limits in printing along the very edge of a piece of paper. So it often starts quite slow, does a bit, and then will speed up. As you can see, leading edge of the print is coming out, and I can immediately see we've got some really quite intense colours. It's one of the reasons I picked this particular image. I'm looking at this white part of the image here, and because this is a dye-based printer, I can see absolutely no gloss differential. Now, gloss differential can be a slight problem on some pigment ink printers. There are reasons why you might choose to use pigment ink printers, but for a glossy print like this, a dye-based printer gives excellent results, particularly this one. The colours are rather intense. Well, there we are. I would say perhaps pull this out will save you thinking the print's going to fall off the edge like I did just now. There we have it, a dye-based glossy print. I'm going to try and move it around so that it shows on the video without making it catching the light, but rather nice colours. So there you go. That's making a borderless glossy print on the Pro-200. I hope these videos are of use, so do check out the YouTube channel, and I hope to have a few more covering this printer before too long. Thanks.